What's up guys, I'm Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in Black Ops 4 multiplayer. In today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the third assault rifle and covering the KN-57. So first up, as always, let's have a look at the damage profile. The KN-57 has a damage profile of 40, 32, 29, which means it's always going to be a 4, 5, or 6 shot kill in core game modes, and a 1 to 2 shot kill in hardcore. Our rate of fire is relatively slow, although a little bit faster than the Rampart 17 at 550 rounds per minute, and with rapid fire, we can actually use rapid fire on this gun. That bumps it up to 588 rounds per minute. Our statistical minimum time to kill without rapid fire is going to be 327 milliseconds within the 4-shot kill range, 436 milliseconds in the 5-shot kill range, and finally 545 milliseconds in the 6-shot kill range. This time to kill value is quite good within the 4-shot kill range, but in a little bit we'll look at those ranges, and it's not the greatest range value. Beyond that 4-shot kill range, it's actually quite slow when it comes to time to kill. When we put rapid fire on though, this does increase our time to kill potential. We now have a 306 millisecond time to kill within the 4-shot kill range, which is very, very good for this game. Within the 5-shot kill range, it's 408 milliseconds, and finally in the 6-shot kill range, it'll be 510 milliseconds. So rapid fire definitely makes a noticeable improvement to the KN-57. As for body armor, just like with all of the other assault rifles, it's going to take you 1 extra shot to kill, assuming you're hitting them in the body. Moving on to our ranges, as you can see here, like I said earlier, that 4-shot kill range is quite short on this gun at only 12.5 meters. Then the 5-shot kill range extends out to about 45 meters, which is very solid, so most of your kills will be within the 4 or 5-shot kill, but beyond 45 meters, it will drop off to that 6-shot kill range. Unfortunately, we can't use long barrel on the KN-57, but we can use suppressor, and suppressor only has a very minor negative effect to your ranges in this game at roughly 10%. As for hardcore, as you can see here, our 1-shot kill range extends out to that roughly 45 meter range, and once again with suppressor that'll be reduced by about 10%. Moving on to headshots, we get a standard headshot multiplier at 1.1 with the KN-57, which brings our headshot damage profile to a 44, 35, 31, and this means headshots will only matter within the standard 6-shot kill range if you hit every single bullet to the head, which simply isn't practical. So essentially with the KN-57, don't bother with headshots because they're not doing anything to help you. Also, there is no option to use high caliber on the KN-57, so unless you're actively going for those headshot camos, there is no reason to be aiming for the head. This brings us to Hipfire, and if you guys have seen the first couple episodes, you'll know that currently all of the assault rifles have the exact same Hipfire spread. As for idle sway, as you can see here, the KN-57 does have a decent amount of idle sway. This is quite a bit for the assault rifle category, and it will definitely have an effect on your shot at those longer ranges. Moving on to recoil, as you can see here, the KN-57 kind of jumps around a little bit side to side, slightly upwards as well. It's not too crazy, it's quite manageable, quite controllable, and at the close to mid ranges, you shouldn't have too much of an issue whatsoever with recoil. However, when you start to stretch it across the map, you will likely be missing a few shots due to recoil. Now we can have a look at the recoil pattern with grip, and you can see that it definitely tightens it up quite a bit, especially for the first few shots. You stay very, very accurate. Then I wanted to also show you guys what it looks like with rapid fire, because this does increase your recoil a little bit. Not technically the recoil values, but you have less time to recenter between shots, and therefore you will lose a little bit of accuracy when you put rapid fire on there. So we can look at them all side by side there so you can see them. Grip is definitely a decent choice on the KN-57, but I would also say that it's not necessary by any means if you're trying to keep your gunfights within the practical range of the KN-57. This brings us to magazine capacity, and we get a standard magazine capacity of 35 rounds with 105 for your total starting ammo, and we can also use extended mags, which brings it up to 55 rounds with 165 total starting ammo, or we can use hybrid mags, which gives us 45 rounds with 135 starting ammo, and you can actually combine the two to get a 65 round magazine, which is absolutely insane. Our reload add time is a little bit on the slow side for the assault rifle category at 1.62 seconds. But with the hybrid magazine, you actually reduce this very significantly all the way down to 0.92 seconds. This is almost an instant reload, and this is why I actually prefer the hybrid magazine over the extended magazine, because you do get a slightly larger magazine, but you also get that near instant reload. As for our aim down sight time, this is standard for the assault rifle category at 275 milliseconds, but with quick draw we can drop that down to about 225 milliseconds. Our sprint out time, again, is fairly standard for the assault rifles at 300 milliseconds, which is relatively slow, but if you use the Gung Ho perk, you can actually reduce that down to about 250 milliseconds, or better yet, if you're using Gung Ho and you break your sprint by aiming down sight instead of firing, you will have a near instant sprint out time. Our movement speed is standard for assault rifles at 95%, and our aimed out sight stray speed is right around standard as well at about 42% is what I managed to calculate. But if we use the stock attachment, we can actually significantly improve our aim down sight strafe speed, and that bumps it all the way up to 72%, which can really help you in a gunfight if you're strafing side to side. So that pretty much wraps it up for the stats of the KN-57. Now let's start getting into attachments as well as recommended class setups. For optics, I often don't use an optic on the KN-57. I really like the iron sights. I feel like they work just fine for the ranges that I tend to challenge people in with this gun. But if I am going to run an optic on this, it's generally going to be either an ELO sight or a reflex sight. As for the other attachments, I generally like to run the KN-57 relatively attachment heavy. I usually like putting on at least 3 attachments, sometimes even 4. The ones that I tend to lean towards are going to be rapid fire, just so I can get my time to kill values down as low as possible. Quick draw so I can snap on a target relatively quickly. And I also tend to like using hybrid mags if I can fit it in the class, as well as the stock attachment. The thing with the KN-57 is all of the attachments are quite good for this gun. I would say with the exception of the laser sight, which isn't necessary by any means because it already has pretty decent hipfire. You really can't go wrong with any of the attachments on this gun, and I'd recommend just playing around with it until you find what works for you. So let's get into a couple great example classes I have for you guys. This first one is really designed for being quite aggressive with the KN-57, really getting up in the enemy's face. With this, we're using quick draw so we can snap on a target super fast. We've got that rapid fire attachment to get our time to kill down as low as possible, and we're really going to try and keep ourselves within that 4-shot kill range, which is quite short. We're almost treating this thing like it's an SMG at this point. And we have hybrid mags here for that near instant reload, which can really help you in a lot of sticky situations. Plus you get that extra 10 rounds in your magazine, which definitely helps when dealing with multiple enemies. For our secondary, we've got a launcher on this class. This helps us clear out barbed wire as well as shoot down UAVs and things like that. We've got stim shot to help keep us in the fight and get us back in the fight as fast as possible after we take some damage. Perks are going to be Scavenger, so we can keep our streak going. Gung Ho, so we can have that near instant sprint out time as long as we're breaking our sprint by aiming down sight. And finally, Dead Silence, so we can hear enemies' footsteps a lot more effectively because we're not hearing our own footsteps as we stomp around. Next up, we have a different class that has kind of a different goal behind it. This one is more so for hanging back slightly and trying to go on longer streaks. With this, we are using an ELO sight so we can pick people off a little bit more effectively at longer ranges. I really like using the ELO sight from time to time on this. We've got the stock attachment instead of quick draw, so this allows us to strafe quickly in gunfights, but we're generally not going to be rushing around needing to snap on a target super fast. It's more so you can pre-aim corners more effectively and strafe around those corners. We've got grip to help us pick people off at those longer ranges, which is really nice. And once again, we've got hybrid mags, which is always just nice to have that extra 10 rounds in your magazine, as well as that near instant reload. For secondary, once again, we do have a launcher here. This one is more so you can get just easy score towards your streak. If somebody calls a UAV in, that's really easy score that you can just quickly shoot out of the sky. Same thing goes with barbed wire or any sort of other piece of equipment. The launcher is great for farming score. For our gear, instead of stim shot, which is what I normally run, this one is geared more towards getting your score streaks up, so we're running the ComSec device, which is basically like Hardline from previous Call of Duty games. Now with this class, we only have room for 2 perks. For perk 1, we're going to be using Scavenger, so we can keep our streak going and we can keep picking up ammo, as well as Dead Silence, just because I really don't like hearing my own footsteps. Like I said, this one is excellent for just staying on those longer streaks, kind of hanging back a little bit, being a bit more on the passive side, not really pushing right up into the enemy's face, but at the same time, you don't want to try and pick people off at too long of a distance because your time to kill isn't going to be the greatest. But this is just a nice alternative to that first class I mentioned. So with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the KN-57. Personally, this gun has actually grown on me quite a bit once I started unlocking attachments, especially the rapid fire attachment. If you don't have rapid fire equipped and you often find yourself in that 5-shot kill range, which will happen quite a bit in this game if you're not actively pushing up into the enemy's face, but if you do that without rapid fire, your time to kill isn't really all that competitive with a lot of the other guns in the game, especially the assault rifles. So once I do have rapid fire equipped though, I feel a lot more comfortable within those 5-shot kill ranges. Plus, I feel more confident pushing up into the 4-shot kill ranges, like right up close against SMGs. I feel, at least in the game's current state, I can dominate up close with the KN-57. But I do anticipate some changes being made to the SMGs, so we'll just wait and see how that ends up turning out. One thing that I really notice about this gun that I like is it's just consistent. You don't have to bother with aiming for the head or anything like that. You just go around, you shoot people in the body, and it kills consistently in the same amount of bullets every time, as long as you know your different ranges. In addition to that, the recoil is also quite good. It's not like the Rampart 17 where it has that really unpredictable second shot where it kicks really strong to the right. The KN-57 doesn't do that. It jumps around within a relatively contained area, and as long as you're keeping your gunfights within that close to mid range, you should have no issue whatsoever with it. Of course though, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of the KN-57? Do you think it's a good gun? Do you think it's a little underwhelming compared to the other assault rifles? Let me know your thoughts down below. Also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, we've covered the first 2 assault rifles already. I will leave a link to the playlist down below, and there are many more to come. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.